So welcome back to another FIFA 23 career mode video. Today we're talking about the things you should not do in career mode. This is going to be part 2 in the series, so if you missed part 1, go and check it out as well. We've got some extra stuff here today that might help you out as you play career mode. If you do find the video useful, please leave a like for me, it always helps. And make sure you subscribe for more FIFA tips and tricks. One thing you should not do in career mode, unless you want to break your controller or your PlayStation or your TV, is basically turn these gameplay settings on. Let me show you really quick. So look at this. Do not do this. Don't go to Ultimate. Do not turn competitor mode on. And do not do player-based difficulty on all at the same time. This is the recipe to break your TV, your controller, your PlayStation, your Xbox. This is the magical recipe right here. I find that when you have all these things on, the gameplay becomes more unrealistic. Things go nuts. Harry Maguire's doing Maradona spins. It's a bit crazy and it does get annoying and frustrating. You see those 90th minute winners all the time from the AI, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, you can turn it on if you want to challenge. Maybe some guys are so good that they need these settings all the way up, but do it at your own risk because I do not recommend it myself. Alright, so another thing you should not do in career mode is ignore the position conversion feature. This was a new feature introduced back in FIFA 21 career mode, and it's definitely going to come in handy for most people that play career mode. Rather than spending your money on buying players for positions you need to fill, it may make more sense for you to convert an existing player into that position, and you can save some money as well while you're at it. So basically here we've got the position feature for Rashford. At the moment he's a striker in the game, but let's say I'm looking for a left winger, you can put him on that conversion. He can do that within 2 weeks. You can make him a right winger, centre forward as well, left midfielder, very versatile player here that can play up front and also on the mids and in the wings as well. Let's say you were looking for a left midfielder. Instead of spending your money, you could just put Rashford there, as long as you have other players that can fill in the other gaps. And there you go, you don't have to spend any money. Now another thing you should not do in career mode is ignore the player development feature. This feature is very useful because it will grow specific attributes on a player rather than having them on balanced plans, which targets everything but nothing really too specific. So if you've got a player here like Martial and you want to make him more of a poacher, you can do that. It will affect his sprint speed, finishing, attacking things, all the ones with the arrows there, and ignore the other attributes there. If you want to make him a mobile striker, it's going to affect different things as well. Some players do benefit from going on more specific plans rather than a balanced plan. I usually change this for a lot of my players in my team because it targets specific stuff that I want to target rather than just keeping them on a balanced plan, which doesn't really grow too many things specifically. So one thing that you should not do in career mode is ignore the manager objectives. As you can see with the right hand side there, the higher the board confidence, the more desirable you are on the job market. Also decreases your chance of getting sacked. The lower that is, it's going to be bad for you. You might get sacked. Now just open it up here, and each club has its own objectives. So it depends on, you know, which club you're working with. Some might have high youth development, some have critical, some have very low. Just depends on the club. And they all have different objectives that you need to try and achieve as you play the game. So you can see with brand exposure, you've got to sign 2 young players, get a streak of 10 games without defeat in home matches. Continental success also helps as well. Domestic success, of course, also helps. Financial stuff is important too. And you can see that number there, 80. That's what you need to monitor. The lower it goes, the higher your chance of getting sacked and stuff like that. So very, very important. Do not ignore it. Another thing you should not do in career mode is long calendar sims. These are very, very dangerous because your chance of getting sacked is very, very high. Basically, when you go to the calendar and you want to sim months in advance, very, very risky stuff because you're not completing manager objectives. Sometimes the AI takes over your team, the lineups and all that. You don't get the results you want. Players are going to leave the club as well because their contracts expire. You're not managing that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's very, very dangerous. I guess sim months at a time, I guess, if you're going to sort of do this feature, but just don't do a whole year in advance. You might get sacked. It's happened so many times. Another thing you should not do in career mode is accept a job offer if you plan on finishing the season with your current club. If you take a job offer during your save at any time during the season, you're sacrificing what you have at the moment with your current team. Unfortunately, in career mode, there's no way to actually, apply for a job whenever you want to. You sort of have to go to the browse job tab and then see what comes up. So let's say we're taking a look at jobs here. There's Spurs, West Ham, and then you've got Bayern Munich. You might want to manage Bayern Munich, but it might not be the right time to go there. The problem is, if you don't accept it, you might lose that opportunity. At the moment with Man United, we're trying to battle for the Premier League. We could do it, but if I leave, then I don't get the chance to win the Premier League. So it's a little bit of a problem there. They should fix it up, make it a bit better, this job offer system. Once you take the offer, that's it. you're over to Germany, I guess. Another thing you should not do in career mode is ignore the weekly things here. I don't know what to call it, the weekly schedule. So let's say we've got fixture pile up. This is where you need to manage individual days. At the moment, we've got some tired players, and we've got a game against Aston Villa in the Cup, 2 days off, and then a game against Newcastle. Not the ideal schedule, but we need to work around it. What I would do here is, if I plan to use the first 11 for both games, I would put a recovery day instead, which is going to increase the recovery of the fitness. It's going to affect sharpness a bit more, but it's better than a rest day. Play the game, obviously, have another recovery day, and then instead of a rest day, probably put recovery again. That way, by the time Newcastle comes around, my players should be mostly well rested rather than putting a rest day, which is not going to do much to the fitness. So yeah, it's something you need to tinker around with, but there will be some weeks in career mode where you need to manage the days individually, even though it can get a little bit annoying or tedious. So another thing you should not do in career mode is blow your budget on one signing in the first transfer window of the season. So we've got 210 million to play with. And obviously, you want to sign the big boys. You want to bring Mbappe to the club, but you shouldn't, because if you need more than one signing, then it doesn't make any sense to spend 200 million on Mbappe and then the rest of the team needs improving, but you haven't got the funds to do it, I guess. So it depends what club you manage, obviously, and if you use the financial takeover setting before you start. But yeah, don't blow the budget on one signing. It's better to sign like 4 players that are around 50 million each than to spend like 200 on one. Remember, you do need money for the January transfer window. You need money for wages as well. And then if you haven't got any money and you want to sign someone, you do have to sell some of your players instead. So it's not really financially good to blow the budget on one player. Another thing you should not do in career mode is lose in preseason. What do I mean by that? Well, this year, if you don't come first in preseason, you don't get any prize money. In previous FIFA career modes, you could sim preseason, even come last or not do very well, and you'd probably still get a bit of prize money. This year, if you do preseasons, you have to make sure you win it, because if you just simulate it and you don't come first, or if you play it and you don't come first, you miss out on that glorious prize money that could help you with your transfer budget. So it looks like we did all right there. I don't know if we won preseason. Let me just take a look. So no, we didn't. We came 4th in preseason, and when I go and check my inbox, it'll say something like, the performance, but it won't give me any prize money this year. Another thing you should not do in career mode is quick sim your games. Quick simming is very, very dangerous in career mode because sometimes you get those dodgy results. How many times have you lost cup games where you thought you were going to smash a team and then you lost 1-0? Quick simming is so dangerous, even though it saves a lot of time. You just don't want to do it. Sometimes you win, but then sometimes there's those dodgy ones that just get you, and that's where you drop points throughout a season. If you don't want to play a full match, then you can use the playable highlights feature this year. Sometimes it's a little bit dodgy, but it does give you some control over the game and the highlights of that game, so you can score goals for yourself and stuff. And also the visual sim is also embedded in the sim match feature as well, which gives you a little bit more control and you can jump in at any time. But quick simming is really, really dangerous. I really don't see the point of it anymore because you're just risking it all just to save a couple minutes of your time. The only time I would quick sim now is if I don't care about the result at all because it's not going to affect anything. I remember in FIFA 20, I had a full team of icons and then we lost to Grimsby and we had a full team of icons. So that's the kind of dodgy results you can expect from a quick sim sometimes.